Hello and welcome to 1 in 20 D&D. I'm Gregory and I'm doing your next recap from the VÄRLDEN Reach. This is for session 6 and what a session this was. I hopefully will make this short and sweet. There was quite a bit of character interplay and it was absolutely hysterical. I will include a link to the live play session in the information below, and I really do encourage you to go check it out if you haven't watched it already. It was a riotous session. We were having lots of laughs the whole time. Everybody was in top form, and man, we just had a good old time. So let me jump right into the details of the session. We started out by returning to the City of Unity, where the VÄRLDEN, the elite group that we are a part of and members of, is headquartered. We were, of course, escorting Flint, who is the owner of Frost Brand Brewery, and we had encountered him just outside the city being attacked by some kind of wolf hound something or others, and we helped him dispatch the creatures, and he offered that if we would escort him and his crew the rest of the way and ensure that his ale made it safely into Unity, he would throw us a party. And that's just what he did. So we went to the local tavern called the Smirkworks, and well, levity ensued. We had a little bit of a party thrown for us as he promised, with plenty of ale, and lo and behold, our kind of pseudo commanding officer, the master at arms for the VÄRLDEN, Crag, showed up, and he kind of toasted us, and then on his way out he kind of glared at us and said, "I'll see you in my office at 8 a.m. So he was clearly not super happy with us, and that's because we probably should have reported in before going to Orison and dealing with all the stuff that the mayor of Vilson asked us to investigate. Well, that was kind of fun and interesting, and then what we did is, well, let's say, so Marana and Alina kind of excused themselves, as well as Perdita. Perdita wanted to go and check in with her mom, and Marana is just not too keen on groups of people and parties and the like, so she slipped out, and Alina sort of followed her shortly after. Titus and Lily and Germaine had a blast and enjoyed the party. When Perdita went in and checked with her mom, she found that, her mom was greeting her with open arms, of course, was thrilled to see her, and asked her about all the dirt with the rest of the team. And so, kind of, Perdita caught her up real quick and relayed some concerns, specifically about, like, Titus's drinking and feeling bad that she maybe let Crag down. And her mom, I think is Kylie, I guess, said, hey, Crag's a pushover, you'll be fine. So she stayed home in her mom's house that night. The rest of us either crashed in the tavern, or most of us went back to the barracks and crashed for the evening. Now, Marana usually doesn't dream or doesn't remember her dreams, and she had a really vivid dream that she woke up from, where Ku was like her panther was chasing her and pushed her off a cliff, and then told her to fly and be free and to trust herself. And then Alina was with her, and she pushed her off some like high tower or something and basically said the same thing. And then she heard a third, like, disembodied voice, and again was this kind of like, trust yourself, be free, go, fly, be free, what have you. So that was kind of interesting development. Now, she hasn't really shared any of that dream with anyone. He kind of hinted a little bit at it to Alina later on in the episode or in the session, but so far none of us have any idea what's going on for her right now. So, of course, we all know Miranda's a little tight-lipped and keeps to herself. So there's no surprise there. So the next morning, we all wake up and have breakfast. Of course, the previous evening, Flint had given the 500 gold that he promised to Titus, and on his way to breakfast that morning, Titus was kind of deliberating with himself whether he was going to keep it and say he got mugged or whether he wanted to share it with the party. Ultimately decided he would share it, and when he showed up, he actually offered it to Marana as hazard pay for the kind of danger that Ku has been in, and because of Ku kind of going down in combat a couple times and the stress she's been under. And she kind of looked at him suspiciously, not too sure, like, what are you trying to pull or something, and then just handed the money over to Perdita. So we had a breakfast with no ale, which was a little frustrating for Titus, I'm sure. And then we went in to see Crag. Crag, similarly to the night before, kind of congratulated us and congratulated us on doing on a job well done in Vilson as for kind of rescuing and protecting the kids at the orphanage. And then he basically mildly reprimanded us for going to Orison without checking in. He said they probably would have sent us on that because helping the mayor is a totally worthwhile cause, but we should have checked in so they at least knew where we were, and he was worried about us ultimately. So Jermaine was touched and said so, and it was pretty interesting because at the same time as he was sort of again mildly reprimanding us, he also essentially promoted us to full-fledged elite unit, to a full-fledged elite unit. So we were kind of on our trial run as a team, and since we seem to be working well together now, and we've functionally, successfully completed like 2.5 missions, as he said, we've been promoted, which means we get our own living quarters now. We don't have to stay in the barracks. So our unit has its own house, which is really freaking cool. We were all kind of really excited about that. And we also got a little bit of pay for the mission, which as soon as Titus heard that, he took off and went to see Maury, the quartermaster, to get his share. A few of us kind of lingered. I had Jermaine speak with Crag briefly to say, hey, thank you for putting me with such a competent group of individuals, and by the way, are you still our CO, our commanding officer? And to which Crag kind of replied like, well, any of the upper management, let's call them, of the Vactair can sort of send us on a mission, which functionally means, oh gosh, I can't remember the name. I have to look in my notes. Either he or Thane, the commander of the Vactair, the commander of the Elite Guard, could send us on a mission. Although we can, of course, there's like a mission board that we can just check in on, and if we want to go on one of those missions, we can do so. So when we talked to Maury, he said, come check with me in the morning, and we'll have some new missions up and ready to go. So we grabbed our keys that he gave us, grabbed our coins, and we went to check on our new digs, which was kind of neat. And we will probably have fun designing and developing this when the time comes. But for the moment, we just checked in, kind of like moved our stuff there, I guess. And then we decided to go handle a little bit of business. Lily kind of took her leave from the group and essentially went to the Temple of Ayuz, which also functions like they have like a small clinic / hospital there, which is where she did some of her training and became a cleric apparently. So she went to kind of help out. She also, of course, made another donation from her earnings and spent the day there. The rest of us went to find maybe see if we can spend some money and kind of upgrade our equipment. We went to Fenton's Fabulous Finds, and Fenton is a very colorful individual, which kind of turned Titus off being hungover as he was from the party, and he just kind of like turned his, spun on his heel and waited for us outside. Marana, Jermaine, and Perdita and Alina kind of went through some of the items that he had. Didn't really have much that was useful for us at the moment, or the things he had were just kind of out of our budget, way too expensive for us this early on in our careers. However, Alina did pick up a potion of invisibility, which is kind of cool. And we were able to get a little bit more information about the feather token that we found. It turns out to be a whip, which is kind of neat. We can use it one time to create this like magical whip. It's similar to like a magic weapon. So we can also we also found out what the beans were and decided, that's a little bit crazy and chaotic for us. Let's just sell these beans and take the gold. So that's what we did. Then Marana and Titus, I guess, went back to our new headquarters, our new home base, or house, whatever you want to call it. And then Perdita was going to go see her mother again and kind of tell her that we got promoted or whatever. And I really felt like, oh, well, Jermaine wants to meet Perdita's mom, and I haven't hinted at it too much. I've kind of dropped some really subtle little hints, but ultimately right now Jermaine is kind of homesick. He's been away from his parents for a pretty long time. He's been on the road and doing his thing and living his life, and he does check in with his parents like at least once a year, but he's definitely missing them right now. And so I think he wanted a little bit of that kind of feeling and the family, and it's really important to him. So he went to check out, to meet Perdita's mom. Also, with Perdita kind of filling the party in on how she got her, well, no, she doesn't even know how she got her scar on her face, but this kind of crazy situation of her like waking up when she was a young teenager and being saved by a paladin and then brought to Unity and adopted by this woman. Jermaine is very curious and feels this sort of, I don't know, like older brother kind of thing with like, I want to make sure that A, we try to help her, and B, we protect her and make sure she's okay. And I also, Jermaine really has a kind of a soft spot for Perdita because he respects that she's trying to like walk the straight and narrow and do the right thing and be kind of like upright and righteous, and he really admires that. He knows that he can't always do that. He will as much as he can, but he knows he won't always do that. And I think he really appreciates that she's kind of the, well, some have said the conscience of the party, but for sure she's kind of the moral compass of the party at the moment, at least. Somewhat. So that's kind of cool, and he digs that. And then he's just curious because hey, who is this woman that took in this young lady? So they went and met her mom. Now turns out her mom is a baker. Jermaine has a sweet tooth. He misses home, and oh my goodness, here's a halfling making yummy, tasty pastries and cookies and so forth. So while Perdita went upstairs to get her things to bring over to the new house, Jermaine kind of had a conversation with her her adopted mom and said, hey, your daughter's pretty amazing. I know you know that, but I'm really impressed. She's doing a great thing right now, and I'm just want you to know that we're gonna look out for her. I'm gonna look out for her. We are gonna look out for her and try to keep her safe. But also, we're gonna try to help her find, kind of like get to the bottom of what happened to her, because that just feels important to me. It feels like something Jermaine needs. It's like a quest for Jermaine now, or something, or at least something he really wants. He feels like. He feels like it's important for Perdita, and he would love to see her get some answers. So he just said that, but then he kind of got distracted by the baked goods and proceeded to have this much longer conversation with Kylie about pastries and baking and what trying to dig the secret out, like what's your secret, like it's the butter or it's this or that, and got nowhere, which was funny, but does love the pastry. So the two of them headed back towards the house. Now on the way, Jermaine had the idea of, we should probably pick up some ale for the house, especially since we kind of have it good with Flint right now. Maybe we can, manage to get a cheapy cask or something like that. Well, when we went and spoke with Flint, he wouldn't hear anything of it and gave us a cask for free, barrel of ale for free, which was awesome. Now, little did Jermaine and Perdita know, Titus was on his way to the tavern to buy 3 kegs of ale for himself. So, trying to make a nice gesture towards Titus and the rest of the group and provide for that libation sort of fell flat when Titus showed up short time later with 3 kegs of his own. But it's still very funny. So when we get back to the house, Marana's out back and like she's setting up she's like in the middle of clearing some space and like creating a workout space sort of in the backyard. And Jermaine sees this and he's like, hey, this is a great idea. So he goes out to help her out. And he's a guy. It's hot. He takes his shirt off. And she's like, what is wrong with you? Why are you constantly getting naked around me? And Jermaine is like, what are you talking about? I'm taking my shirt off because we're going to work and it's dirty and sweaty. And so that was hysterical and fun. And then a short time later, like the whole group minus Lily is kind of around. So he pulls everyone outside and said, and actually he was a little sharp with Titus because Titus was like, do I really? I asked him to go inside and get Perdita and Lily if she was around, and he's like, do I have to? And I kind of like, I had Jermaine kind of give him a command, like, yes, Sergeant, it is, almost like, yes, that's an order, Sergeant, kind of thing. So he said, is it mandatory? And I said, yes, it's mandatory. Go. Thank you. So he begrudgingly went and grabbed Perdita and came back out. So when the 4 of us were there, minus Lily, I kind of told them a little bit about like, hey, my second unit was like a really crack unit, and we were training, and I'm Jermaine's kind of a little bit of an expert on strategy. He wrote a book, and he doesn't really like to talk about it. He's kind of really a humble guy. He doesn't think much of himself. He's confident, and he's a happy dude, but he's also somewhat successful and doesn't like to really speak about it that much. He felt it was really important to try to like express why he loved what the idea that Marana had basically come up with to start sparring with Titus every morning to like keep her skills sharp, because that's what his second unit did, and they became like this really well decorated, very successful unit. And it's also why he got promoted to captain kind of young, kind of as a young man. So he's like, we should do this. This will help us as a group to bond, to come together, and to build our skills as a fighting unit, so we can get used to how each other works. And like Lily, she's throwing fire everywhere, which is kind of freaky, so like we need to know how to deal with that kind of stuff. And then Marana has coup, and how can we all function together? So they kind of listened to his little, I guess they saw it as a speech, but he didn't think of it that way, and they kind of listened to what he says, and sort of again sort of kind of begrudgingly listened. And he tried to give credit to Marana being her idea to start sparring, and she basically, and I said, one of the things that Jermaine said was he noticed that when Marana and Titus were sparring in the mornings, Marana was like happy and smiling, like she was in a good mood. And so he said, that's the only time I've seen you smile, and by the way, you have a really nice smile. You should smile more often. So after he finishes kind of saying, hey, I think we should do this, she walks up to him and clocks him in the face. And Alina had seen what was about to happen. Now, as an aside, Alina and Marana have some history together. We don't know what it is yet, but I have some ideas. Jermaine or myself, I have some ideas about what their history is, but we don't know. It has not been revealed yet. So they have some kind of a connection, and she saw what was going down, and she goes and gets down behind me, kind of kneeling behind me, so that when Marana hits me or hits Jermaine goes tumbling over backwards on his, flat on his back, functionally, and she then proceeds to stand over him and say, "Don't tell me to smile." So, Jermaine thinks, well, that's kind of a strange way to say thank you for a compliment, but he's kind of taking it lightly, as these are sort of the growing pains, if you will, of a group getting to know each other and suss each other out and so forth. And being from the military, he's kind of used to the sort of ribbing and whatnot that kind of goes on with a tight knit unit. So he kind of let it slide, and at the same time, it put him into right now he's in a very melancholy state. He's thinking about where he's come from, the decision he made, and I imagine that the other characters, I hope the other players are sort of in the same space of Titus played it out really beautifully in this session, where he was literally Craig said, "Okay, anybody have any objections to being, or reservations about being promoted and this being your unit? Let me know now." And Titus was gonna say something, but Perdita basically said, "Shut up!" Put your hand down, Titus. So that was hysterical. But I think everyone in the group is sort of feeling that little bit of nervousness of oh wow, this is getting serious now. And so I think Jermaine is in a really melancholy moment, and I intend to carry that forward a little bit to see where that goes. So he kind of spent the rest of the afternoon finishing up a little bit of the work in the yard, and then but also kind of just sitting by himself. And then Perdita's mom brought some more Perdita had brought some pastries. We polished those off by the end of the night. Marana and Alina had a conversation about some of the things that was going on, mostly about Jermaine and how they don't trust Jermaine, apparently, which is interesting, and again ties into their backstories, which we really don't know much about yet, so I'm curious where that goes. And then essentially we turned in for that. Lily came back after having a meal kind of by herself at the tavern, and then came back and just beautifully, oh my gosh, everybody. So here's one of the amazing things about this group. All of the players in this adventure and our DM, everyone is role playing in such an amazing fashion. There's this amazing synergy happening, and this incredible, I've said it I think before, or at least I've said it to the group, where I love the fact that we allow some space for things to happen. And it's like a good acting technique, and you create space for things to evolve spontaneously and naturally, and let people kind of emote and feel and react. And it's been happening, and it's so awesome. And we keep having these really powerful moments in the game and this incredible comedy at the same time. So it's just been so much fun, and I really love the players and the characters in this adventure. I'm having a fantastic time every session. So we go inside, we call it a night. Lily has another hysterical kind of one-liner, sort of please watch the video. It's hysterical and fun. And then we all turn in. Well, in the middle of the night, Titus is slamming on Jermaine's door. Captain! So Jermaine, half asleep, what's Sergeant? What's going on, Titus? Why are you waking me up? Is everyone okay? He tries to take a swing at Jermaine as well, but he's drunk and misses. And Jermaine is kind of not meaning to be patronizing or placating, but kind of understanding more. It's okay, man, do you want to talk? if everything will be all right. Can we talk about it in the morning? It's the middle of the night, but if you really need to not, no, he's like walks back to the bed while he's talking to Titus. Like, if you really want to talk about it right now, come on in. The door's open, and basically Titus kind of goes off in a huff and is like, okay, whatever. That was. Like, don't boss me around. That was basically what you're saying. Like, you can't boss me around. That's why I left the mercenary guild and this kind of thing. So, yeah, so that was kind of funny and fun. And then the next morning, we all decide we're going to go see Maury, and we're going to, find out. Oh, no, first we do some training in the morning, which was great. So it was like our first day of training. It was a little awkward and kind of like feeling things out. And getting started, and Perdita already had her morning like routine where she would practice with her sword and what have you, and Jermaine wants to improve his skills as well, so Jermaine was interested. Titus had to be woken up. Miranda basically had to get Titus out of bed with like a bucket of cold water to get him motivated to come out and do the training, and then we walked to see Maury in the HQ and get our next assignment. Well, on the way to headquarters, Alina kind of pulls Jermaine aside, or approaches Jermaine, and how should I say this? She essentially was trying to say to Jermaine, like, she's got her eye on him, and Jermaine is kind of like, well, why? Like, what's going on? Like, I think he's a pretty intuitive character. I think he's a pretty intuitive guy. Especially, I'm playing him as if he's the oldest in the group. I don't know that he specifically is, but I'm absolutely playing him as if he's the oldest in the group. So he's kind of got a little bit more perspective maybe than some of the other party members, and he sees kind of right away where it's coming from, I think. She's concerned about Miranda and also has her own suspicions. And because Jermaine is kind of this charming, eloquent, talkative. Actually, they keep saying Jermaine talks way too much, which is funny because Gregory, have been accused of the same thing my whole life, so I'm not surprised at all. And it's funny and fun. So she basically is kind of confronting me like, dude, I got my eye on you. And I'm like, okay, I understand. I have faith in you. I trust you guys because I choose to. And I understand that maybe for you, trust is earned. And I believe, or Jermaine believes, he hopes and he believes that he will earn their trust. And it may take time. And he's like, and that's okay. So he goes to walk away. And she's like, apparently like, that did not go the way I imagined at all. Not at all. So she takes the gem so way back in like the first, second, third, let's see, it was like second or third session, must have been the third session when we were in Vilson and we fought that garbage monster. Jermaine had found a pouch of some gems, and he had given a 50 gold piece gem to each of the party members. He kept a couple extra for himself, but that's neither here nor there, but essentially gave a 50 gold piece gem to each of the party members. Well, Alina pulls hers out and throws it at Jermaine's back while he's kind of like walking away, trying to hit me in the back of the head, but she kind of hit me more in the shoulder. And at first I was going to have Jermaine do something kind of snotty and sort of dismissive, and then I realized, like, you know what, that's not really how I think Jermaine would have acted. So I turned around and I picked up the gem and I said, was there something else? I'm sorry. I thought we were done. Is there something more? And then when Alina basically just said, yeah, okay, I'm watching you. I don't trust you. And then Jermaine said, okay, well, here you go. And he held out the gem for her to take back, which she kind of walked by and snatched it and kept going. So yeah, so that was funny. That was the last kind of bit of comedy for the evening. We went and met Maury. He gave us the option of three different tasks we could go as for our next mission, and we decided to go and see. There's been some bandits raiding to the south, and we're going to go and see if we can't get to the bottom of that and stop their troublesome ways. So that's where we left it off. It was an amazing episode. I had a ton of fun. Even though Jermaine was kind of getting a little picked on throughout the episode, it was still a lot of fun. It was, as a player, it was hysterical and fun and funny, and uh, really loved this session. I love the players. I love this adventure and can't say it enough. So, hey, go check it out for yourself. Listen to it, watch it. If not, hey, we're playing every Sunday, or excuse me, every Saturday. So this is in preparation for this week's episode 7, session 7. I can't wait for Saturday, and I hope you enjoyed this quick little rundown of me giving a recap from our adventures in the VÄRLDEN Reach. So stay tuned for next week, and in the meantime, thanks for stopping by. I appreciate you guys coming and checking this out. All the likes and subscriptions are great. Comments are welcome and appreciated. I hope to see you at a table someday. And please, keep rolling 20s.